Thank you so much for listening. If you'd like to offer dana, then please do go to justthiszen.org/giving. Your support really does make a huge difference. Thank you so much.
Good morning. In the autumn of 2018, after having led 10 retreats in the mountains of Switzerland, Flint gave one of his final Dharma talks there. And during it he described how he'd walked further up the mountain on a clear day like today. And he'd looked across the valley, and in the sunlight there was a small leaf crossing the valley. It was spiraling and swirling and coming towards him. And it landed right at his feet. And he said that moment contained everything. I brought my notebook to our retreat for the first time for, I think, 6 years. And as I opened it to make some notes, I found leaves from the mountains of Switzerland. And the leaf that would have made its way slowly and gradually towards Flint at that time would have been like this. One of these. And they twirl and swirl in the wind. There's a particular intimacy about opening the zendo. When I hold my hand like this, there's something quite close and touching about somebody just placing a stick of incense between my index fingers and bowing together and moving together. And I found also sitting here when Jill or Trudy or John and Trudy were opening the zendo, I was facing like this. And for the first few times I tightened my shoulder to just offer what I thought was more space to John or to Jill. And after a while I thought, no, don't do that. Really feel what's coming from these people. And it made me think about how sometimes with my body I don't do that. I don't allow it to go, oh, okay, just really feel the intimacy of what's flowing in this moment. I forget who said it, Trudy will know, but beyond all ideas of right doing and wrong doing, there is a field. I'll meet you there. And
Mr. Rumi.
Rumi, it was Rumi. And it's one of the only ways I can describe the particular quality and intimacy of ceremony. There's a space that we enter that is beyond false cause and no cause. Suzuki Roshi said, to feel your being here in this moment is a very important practice. To feel or to be yourself at a certain time in a certain place, that is why we practice our way. To feel your being here right now. And I've opened a number of talks with this, but I didn't know where it came from until I started thinking about this talk. And it actually comes from a talk on ceremony and zazen. It's intertwined with the intimate practice of ceremony and zazen. And it's an opening to that connection with all things, with the mystery. He says, I want you to do ceremony until you are sure of your response to other people. You will find yourselves in various situations and you will know intuitively what you should do. It feels counterintuitive, doesn't it, to do something that's very formal, to deepen into intimacy. But he says we have formal practice and informal mind. Formal practice and informal mind. And Dogen, when asked what is the mind of enlightenment, he said it's this soft, flexible mind. The mind that can take any shape. When I think about my years of teaching in schools, if somebody was to ask me, what do you really remember about it? What actually touches you? And it's usually something like what happens here. And the one that I'm going to describe to you today is when I taught drama, after all the preparation that we did, and all the preparation on the night, the 25 16-year-old students would get in a line and everything would go really quiet. And they got in this line and they just walked down from the drama room to go outside the hall. And there were 3 or 4 minutes when they're attending and waiting to the start. You can't hear anything. And I think they did that out of respect and love for each other. And I think respect and love for me, because I wanted them to have that experience. Not just doing the play, but actually the experience of community in silence. And if I was to take the desert island memories of my teaching, it would be that kind of thing, where you saw the expression of love and attentiveness and purpose in 25 16-year-olds who were able to stand still for 5 minutes in quiet, in relaxed quiet. Suzuki Roshi said, I'm rather amazed at the spirit in this zendo, but the next question is how to extend this spirit to your everyday life. And I wonder if that's one of the questions we have today as we move towards going home. He says you do it by respecting things and respecting each other, because when we respect things, we find their true life. We find their true life. And of course there are many opportunities to witness beauty in people's activity in this world. Trudy spoke about Nick Cave yesterday and the loss of his son, Arthur. And he says, There's a vegetarian takeaway in Brighton called Infinity, where I would eat sometimes. I went there the first time I'd gone out in public after Arthur had died. There was a woman who worked there, and I was always friendly with her. Just the normal pleasantries, but I liked her. I was standing in the queue, and she asked me what I wanted, and it felt a little strange, because there was no acknowledgement of anything. She treated me like anyone else, matter-of-factly, professionally. She gave me my food, and I gave her the money. And, sorry, it's quite hard to talk about this. She gave me back my change, and she squeezed my hand purposefully. It was such a quiet act of kindness, the simplest and most articulate of gestures, but at the same time, it meant more than all that anybody had tried to tell me, because of the failure of language in the face of catastrophe. She wished the best for me in that moment. There was something truly moving to me about that simple, wordless act of compassion. Ed Brown, who was the Tenzo at Tassajara for many years, was in a film about cooking. It's called How to Cook Your Life. And he will avow that he had anger issues. And he said, when you, he was describing how, and you would have seen this, or actually offered this in the kitchen, you take a little bowl of the food and you have a little ceremony and you offer it to the world. You take it out into the world. It's a beautiful ceremony. And Flint taught that to me a few years ago. But at Tassajara, you take quite a big bowl and you have to go right through the practice community, along corridors upstairs to the Buddha hall, and then you present it to the Buddha. And he said, when he first started as Tenzo, he said, I haven't got time for this. I'm just too busy. I've got a job to do. He said, you take this little doll bowl and you put some of the meal in it and you walk through the whole retreat centre and up some stairs and offer the food to the Buddha, and he doesn't say anything. He doesn't say, nice grapes, delicious sauce. After about 3 years, he said, I began to think this was a really good idea. You take this little doll bowl, and you put some of the meal in it, and you walk through the whole retreat centre and up some stairs, and you offer the food to the Buddha, and he doesn't say anything. The same process, different awareness. Something about his practice and his mind had shifted into a different perspective around what this practice is. A celebration of gratitude for life. And it can take some time. In our precepts group, we were looking at a piece by Paul Haller, Rushin Paul Haller of San Francisco Zen Center. And he'd been to the memorial service for Hiroshima in August. And he said, it reminded me of what I already knew and helped me think of the notion of knowing what you already know. Sometimes when we approach practice, we think, will I need to know? Maybe we don't. Maybe there is something in us that already knows, something in us that living the human life, and our challenge is to remember. And very interestingly, the Pali word for mindfulness is sati, and the root of that word is remember. Remember what you already know about being who you are. Remember what you already know about not being selfish, caring for others. Remember what you already know about belonging. We remember these basic things that we have known probably since we were 7 years old, and maybe before that too. And I wonder if when we listen to talks and when we do other aspects of that practice, what happens is we remember what we already know. We go, something comes in, but it relates to something inside us that wants to be known. There's one of our sister Zen groups is called Awakening Together. Beautiful, Awakening Together. And I wonder if in our wider Justice Sangha, we're doing this process actually remembering together. Yes, we want to know, we want to listen to Dharma talks. We still want to do that. But somewhere inside, we already know something deeply. Zen is essentially a ceremony of gratitude for this life. We arrive longing for explanation, and after some time, surrender to just caring for things and ceremony, to sitting together, walking together, bowing, sewing, sending beautiful cards, and making beautiful cards, cleaning and cooking. Maybe what's happening is there's a shift. We're remembering. We're actually falling into ceremony at that time, at the same time. We're moving towards leaving now, aren't we? Our time is together is nearly up. Maybe it isn't. When Dongshan, after many years with his teacher Yunyan, decided it was time to leave and go on pilgrimage and teach himself, he went to see Yunyan. I can imagine in my mind the meeting, I can kind of see them there. And Yunyan says, after your departure, it will be hard to meet again. Of course, they had no public transport, no internet, no Zoom. Dongshan replied, it will be hard not to meet. Even if they're not in physical presence, it will be hard not to meet. And I'm not talking about the possibility that we might meet on Zoom together, but it will be hard after these precious days together not to meet. We have become dear ones to each other, precious. When Trudy and I were with a Hindu guru in the late 70s, Swami Muktananda, we would, hundreds of people would come to see him in a big hall, either in Los Angeles or in upstate New York. And there'd be a long darshan line. The darshan line is where you go and make an offering, sometimes fruit, sometimes other foods, and you put it at his feet and you bow. You kneel and you bow. So often 3 in a row would be bowing, offering fruit, and he would caress you with these peacock feathers. He would look at you, and then you'd go off into the room and you'd wait, and he would give a talk, or one of his swamis would give a talk, and sometimes we all want to be seen, don't we? We long to be seen. And particularly in a devotional practice where you have a guru, you You want to be known and seen, and it was difficult for some people. So they would go, "Oh, I don't think he knows me. I don't think he sees me." And he said, when people approach me in the darshan line, I look at them once with great love. To really see everyone once is enough. Just to really, if you really see everyone once, it's enough. So Dongshan was leaving Yunyan, and he said, later on, if I am asked to describe your teachings, what should I tell people? I think you know what Yunyan says. He says, just this is it. Just this. Just this. Just this moment. Being here in this moment is it. He says, the great matter is now in your hands. You must be most thoroughgoing. The great matter is now in our hands. We must be most thoroughgoing. So leaving. Once Suzuki Roshi was flying back from the East Coast to the West Coast to the San Francisco, and he said, when I was flying back from the East Coast the other day, I saw a beautiful sunset. The sunset lasts a pretty long time if you are flying towards the west. People on the ground think it is dark and there is no more sun, but if you are flying high up in the sky, you still have the sunset and you can see the beautiful clouds. It is wonderful to see, but at the same time, someone may feel very lonely. Yet wherever you are one with the clouds and with the sun and the stars that you see. Even if you jump out of the aeroplane, you don't go anywhere else. You are still one with everything. This is more true than I can say, and more true than you can hear. This is more true than I can say, and more true than you can hear. He says nothing exists but momentarily in its present form and colour. One thing flows into another and cannot be grasped. We cannot grasp this retreat. We can remember it. As whatever happens, we are now inextricably woven together from these precious few days here in this green valley in 2024. Let's say the verse, the unique breeze of reality, just one more time. The unique breeze of reality, can you see it? The unique breeze of reality, can you hear it? Continuously creation runs by loom and shuttle, weaving the ancient brocade, incorporating the forms of spring. As the wolf goes through the warp, the weave is dense and fine. One continuous thread comes from the shuttle. How can this weave be spoken of on the same day as Thoth's cord